Okay, now I'd like to turn to talking about exercise and its role in weight loss as well as in health more generally. So first, unfortunately, exercise is not as effective to weight loss as we might think. And this is for a number of reasons, which once again are or would have been adaptive in earlier times. And this is because our body adapts well to exercise, right? So when we start to exercise more, our body gets used to that and gets better at it and starts to burn fewer calories as we do the same amount of exercise, right? So for example, if you start running, your body will get very efficient at running, and this is great. You're going to be a good runner, but you're going to get less and less calories burned with each equivalent run because, again, your body is becoming efficient at that. This is actually one of the reasons that people are so interested in CrossFit, and it is very effective for weight loss, but less effective for training your body overall, which is right. So you change up your exercise every time, and so your body is not able to adapt to that, and so that creates a lot of ability to continue to burn a lot of calories with every workout. But for example, compared to that runner, right, you may not get as good at doing a specific task, like doing that one type of deadlift or doing that specific length of run compared to someone who does those specific training over and over again with the goal of adapting, right, to become long-term stronger in that exercise or in that cardiovascular exercise. And so our body, if we do the same type of exercise, will adapt to that. And again, which type of exercise you choose to do is going to depend on your goal, right? Is your goal weight loss, in which case you might like to really change up your exercise every time so that your body is not able to adapt, or is your goal to build specific skills or specific types of strength, in which case you do want to repeat those exercises so that you give your body that chance to adapt to that. Also, when we exercise, right, we usually eat more, right? It takes a lot of exercise to burn, say 300 calories, and we're easily likely to make up that amount in the extra that we eat because, again, our body has burned energy with exercise and it wants to take more in now, and so we're going to be hungrier. And so it's very difficult to lose weight through the caloric output of exercise, particularly if you don't also pair it with diet, which is going to be hard to do because you have an increased appetite. But that's not to say exercise doesn't help, right? So one thing is, particularly if you are exercising and becoming fitter and you're gaining more muscle, right, you may not lose weight because muscle weighs more than fat, but muscle is going to help burn more calories. And so you are more likely to burn more fat and then continue to gain more muscle. And so you may not lose weight overall on the scale, but you're going to have a better distribution of mass on your body in a way that is healthier overall. And so it is helpful to health, and ultimately depending on what your set weight range is and where you started, you may be able to lose weight as well. Right? And so where exercise really helps with weight loss is when people are above that set weight range, and then their body wants to engage in processes to help lose that, and so adding that activity can help. But if you are trying to lose weight down below your set weight range, it's going to be really difficult to do that with exercise. Certainly you will become fitter, but you may not lose pounds. But this doesn't mean you shouldn't exercise, right? And again, here, do as I say, not as I do, although I am getting better at this slowly as I age and realizing that, I need to do this in order to maintain my health. But exercise really is the number one thing you can do for your health. We used to teach that the number one thing you could do is not smoke cigarettes, but now new data suggests that even more important than that, even a larger risk factor is a sedentary lifestyle. And so exercising regularly has been shown to have all kinds of positive effects on health overall. So even if you don't lose weight, there's still a number one benefit. It's the number one thing you can do for your health. Doesn't mean that this means you can smoke cigarettes now. That's still just as bad. It's just that now we know that exercise is even more important than previously thought. And I want to just present a little data on that here. But again, first I have to say, do as I say, not as I do, right? I'm into fitness, but I'm into fitness whole pizza in my mouth. That's my kind of fitness. Okay. But so yeah, just, I think you can guess from our trend in talking in this class about people not engaging in health behaviors. There's recommendations for how much exercise we should get, and for most adults from 18 to 64, that's about 2.5 hours of moderate intensity activity per week, right? And then if you do exercise regularly, this doesn't seem like that much, but most of us are not meeting this, right? Most people are not exercising regularly for a variety of factors, psychological, social, right? Just that they may not feel that they have the time or motivation to do that. And there's all kinds of barriers in the way. But as I've said, exercise is a really important thing to health, and so what are I think you already understand that implicitly, but let's talk a little bit about some of the physiological changes that can occur with exercise. First, particularly with cardiovascular exercise, right? We call it that for a reason. It exercises your cardiovascular system and strengthens your heart and increases your lung capacity, as well as a number of other things, right? So, your heart will become more efficient at pumping blood with each beat, and so it doesn't need to beat as fast in order to give you that same amount of blood out to the periphery in order to fuel your muscles. Also, over time as you train, particularly if you do the kind of things that you allow your body to adapt to that exercise, it will build a greater number of capillaries to your muscles, right? And so now you're getting blood there even more efficiently. So you're able to work out longer, harder, engage in more difficult tasks, right? Because you're able to continue to get needed blood to those muscles for longer before you use up energy and start to fatigue. It also improves, I guess I wrote this twice, so this is important. It improves the utilization of oxygen, right? People get also more efficient at using the oxygen that they intake and in their muscles to provide energy. There's also other types of physiological changes, right? Depending again on what type of exercise you're engaging in, you may increase your flexibility. If you talk to my mother, she'll tell you all about it. She's super into yoga as a lady in her 60s. This is a relatively new thing to her. My dad calls it doing yogurt. He's not so interested in doing this with her, but she's gotten quite flexible, and she's all about doing this. She's preparing for when she gets even older, and then she's going to fall. And she wants to be flexible so that when she falls, she's less likely to break a hip. And this is true, right? She heard it on NPR, but I did look into the research, and there is a lot of evidence that engaging in exercises that improve your flexibility are important for maintaining balance to prevent falls from happening, but also to allow people to recover and to fall well when they do. And this is something that is reason that many elderly people end up in the hospital is from falls and breaking their hip or other things. So, it also, exercise can increase the strength of your bones and protect against osteoporosis, and this is particularly important in women who are more likely to lose calcium in their bones, and the bones become weaker. This is due to hormonal differences between men and women, and so women are more prone to osteoporosis, and so therefore exercise can be really effective for increasing bone strength. Right? My mom is also worried about this when she falls. She wants to have strong bones. So she's also practicing walking down the stairs holding the railing all the time as well. You can guess the kind of woman that she is. She's preparing for the end already. But she is, right about these things, right? These are major concerns as you age, is falling, and being fit can really help you to stay healthy for a long time, because it through these direct effects on, the way that your heart is working and your lungs, but also through allowing you to recover quickly from falls or to prevent those falls. And also it can improve immunity and wound healing as well. And so people tend to live longer because of that as well. And so overall, it's been shown on average to add 2 years on people's life, exercising just a moderate amount every week. It also can promote, this may be interesting to students, right? With these other things are long-term. I, unlike my mother, am not preparing for my imminent death and worrying about that all the time. And so some things that are more proximal that can be of interest to us with exercising are that it can promote the growth of new neurons and it can improve our learning and memory. My roommate in grad school learned about this and read all of his articles for our qualifying exam while on the treadmill because he thought this would help. And indeed, there is evidence to suggest that exercising during or just after learning new information can lead you to better remember that. And this is through, when we're working out, we release all kinds of hormones that promote growth elsewhere in the body in terms of repairing our muscles, and it also promotes growth in the brain, and so we can make stronger connections and are more likely to remember things that we're trying to learn at that time. And so this is another plug for exercising. Just to give you some more evidence, this comes from a massive study that came out in 2018. They had 122,007 participants in this study, and what they did was they brought people into the lab and they had them do one of those treadmill tests like you might see on TV or in one of those montages where the person is working out and they're hooked up to all kinds of equipment that's measuring their lung capacity, their heart rate, their blood flow, right? So they did one of those treadmill stress tests, and they basically assess how fit are you with this, right? And so in this study, they're looking at fitness. They're operationalizing this as your ability on this treadmill test. And what they found was that fitness was negatively associated with what we call all-cause mortality. And what we mean by all-cause mortality is death by any cause, right? So people who were fit were less likely overall to die of everything, basically, is what they found. But specifically, reduced fitness was associated with greater mortality, even more so than what we would consider traditional clinical risk factors like coronary heart disease, coronary artery disease, smoking, and diabetes. So this was doing poorly on this treadmill test was even a greater risk factor of death than being diabetic. Importantly, also, these benefits occurred for both men and women and across all different age groups. And so, again, being fit in this way was really key to long-term health outcomes. And I guess I didn't specify in saying at the beginning of this, right? They had these people come in, and this was over a very long period of time, right? We've been following these people for a long time, which has allowed some of them to die, and allowing us to look at these statistics for the risk factors that are associated with fitness, and comparing that to all of these other risk factors from the data they had about these individuals. So again, these benefits occurred for both men and women and across all age groups. And there didn't seem to be any upper limit on the benefits of fitness. And what they mean by that was there was no specific level of fitness on this treadmill test at which point it plateaued in terms of benefits to health and to reduction of risk of death, right? So this was it continued to go up, right? The more fit you are, the more likely you were to live longer, and so that's really interesting to know, right? There's not just some sort of amount you can do and then you're good. Certainly, anything is better than nothing, but it doesn't seem like there's a point at which you reach diminishing returns on that. But just to note here, right, an important thing to keep in mind when interpreting this study, and a lot of the headlines that covered this didn't quite get at this, which is this isn't the same as saying that exercise prevents you from dying, right? So certainly these people were more fit, but as I'm sure you've guessed, fitness is not just about how much you exercise. That's a huge thing that goes into it, but certainly there are genetic differences that allow people to exercise more, exercise harder, gain more muscle than other people, and so to be fitter in that way. And so this certainly includes exercise within its estimate of fitness on health, but it's also including in its operationalization of that, right, the genetic differences that might be at play also in determining fitness in the way that they've, again, operationalized it here as your ability on this stress test, treadmill test. I posted a few links on our page, so you don't need to click on these ones here. They're listed there as well, but if we were still in an in-person environment, I would play these in class. And so there's a short audio recording about the impact of stress on the impact of exercise among seniors. And really, it's just amazingly, this still just is amazing to me, that their hearts look like they're 30 years younger, people who exercise regularly. And then just for a little human interest, I have the story of Ida Keeling. And I check every year to see if she's still around, and she is indeed. She's going to be 105. Or I think she already is 105. She'll be 106 on May 15th now. So coming up, that's pretty impressive. And so she tells her story about how running has really been a key part of her both healing from psychological trauma, but also in maintaining her health and her zest for life. Again, so we're saying exercise may not be all that effective for weight loss, particularly if you're trying to lose weight outside of your set weight range. But it is very important to health outcomes. And then also, we already talked about this a bit in our coping section, but I just want to remind us here, exercise is also great for stress reduction, right? And it's often one of the first things that goes, but is really important, right? We said before, it seems counterintuitive that a physical stressor could reduce the experience of mental stress and then also ultimately physiological stress. But that's because, right, it ultimately reduces levels of adrenaline and cortisol, right? So certainly we activate the sympathetic nervous system when we're working out, but we use that energy, right? So we're unlike other psychological stressors where we might just sit and stew in all that cortisol and all that excess blood glucose, we use that up here. And so that allows us to then calm down afterward. It also releases endorphins, right? And that feels good. That's that runner's high, which you may or may not have ever achieved. It's been a long time since I had that, but that is a great feeling if you get there. Exercise can also help us reduce stress because it can give us a sense of mastery and control, right? It might be, you might feel like other things in your life you can't really control, they're not up to you, other factors are at play, especially now, right? There's all kinds of things that are out of our control, but one thing we can do is, do a little bit more of an exercise every day or set up a routine, and we can maintain that. And you can start to see gains in that. And that can be a way that you can gain a sense of mastery and competence and control over your environment. I think this was a big part of how I personally got through grad school, right? There were times where my research did not feel like it was going well, but that was the time in my life that I was most consistently working out. And I was, maybe I could lift 5 more pounds than yesterday. And that was something in my life that was going well. And it also can give you a sense of a routine, right? And that can be really important to giving you that control. And then also, as we talked about before, exercise can impact sleep, right? And so you might be getting better quality sleep, and especially if you're exercising early in the morning, that can help to spike your cortisol then and get you on a more regulated cortisol cycle. And so it helps to spike it when it's supposed to be spiked and then to go down after that. And so exercise can be a great way to regulate stress and sleep. Also, exercise, particularly cardiovascular exercise, right, enhances your deep rhythmic breathing, and so trains your vagal tone over time. And we talked about that in our coping lecture as well, right? So that's going to allow you to recover more quickly from stress and keep your heart rate low, right? You're going to have high heart rate variability, a lower resting heart rate, and your vagal tone will be stronger, and so it will be more effective at slowing your heart rate when it needs to. Exercise is also important, for our mental health, which of course is related to stress. It seems even weird to separate out in these 2 slides, but just because I couldn't, really fit it all on one. It also can reduce this, improve our well-being, our mental health, and our cognitive function, right? It can reduce our stress in that particular moment as we, first activate and then ultimately calm our body, but also over time, through this consistent endorphin release, this exercise has been shown to be incredibly effective at helping with depression and and anxiety. Certainly it's difficult to start exercising when you're experiencing depression, but if people are able to get going, often with social support, this can be a really helpful way of coping, right? And I certainly don't recommend that as the only thing. This works really well alongside of pharmaceutical interventions and therapy, but exercise can help a lot. The clinical trials show that the best is the pairing of those three things, right? So having some medication to help you feel better enough to get started exercising, and also having some support from a qualified therapist in that. As we said, increased vagal tone, but this is going to also help you recover better from stress in the future. And then exercise has also been shown to improve attention, memory, and executive functioning, right? Again, that's why my roommate liked to read his articles on the treadmill. It's been linked to growing new neurons, but also just generally to improved attentional function, right? Your body's more alert and activated, and that improves your attention and memory. And so I just put this up here because, again, reiterating the point that exercise may not always feel like it's effective for weight loss, but that is not the point. And at a societal level, I think it's important to remember that, right? So this is, I love this comic. So this woman is saying, I feel so good since I started working out, right? She's feeling great. She's got, better maybe memory and attention and more energy and all of the things we just talked about. She's getting healthier. And this other woman says to her, cool, how much weight have you lost? And she's just like, punch her in the face, right? Gained 4 pounds of muscle already by punching everyone asking that bullshit question. And that is a bullshit question, right? Because maybe she won't lose weight. Maybe she's gaining all kinds of muscle, right? That's very likely. And getting more fit, getting better cardiovascular health. And so we really, when the goal of exercise is gaining health, right? We can be very effective in that. But if the goal is to lose weight, we may or may not be able to achieve that goal, right? And so this is part of why in health behavior assignments, right, I asked you to think about your goal in terms of a behavior, right? Because we can control our behavior, but we can't always control the outcomes of that. And so we can't necessarily determine how many pounds we're going to lose if we go running every day, but certainly that's going to have an impact on our health, and we're going to get better at running, and we're going to be able to run further and faster. And so this, just to tie in things we've talked about before, right? This is why our goals and our aspirations, and whether they're intrinsic and extrinsic, really matter to our mental and physical health, because they impact our motivation, right? If you look at this poor little rhino here, he's running on the treadmill, right? And he's aspiring to be a unicorn. He's trying to obtain a look and a weight that's outside of his set weight range, and he's not going to be able to do that, and that's going to be demoralizing and unmotivated. But if his goal is to be a fit rhino and get better at running longer or running further, or just engaging in running every day because it makes him feel better and he feels more energetic afterward, and is not necessarily concerned about any other particular outcomes, that's going to be more motivated, and he's going to be better able to stick with that exercise. And then if there is weight to be lost within that range or outside that range, then that will follow from that, right? And so having the goal of weight loss has been shown to be less effective, right, than having the goal of physical fitness. And so the way that we frame our goals and our aspirations is really key, right? And again, having a goal of losing a particular number of pounds is often external, right? It's about how other people are going to see us. It's about the image we might have. It's about, looking good at the beach, back again when we used to be able to go places, or looking good on Instagram. But if we can try to shift away from those type of goals and really have fitness-related goals or behavior-related goals, that's going to be much more motivating and much more effective. So exercise is a celebration of what you can do, right? It's not a punishment for what you ate, and I really do think that that's important. So far I've talked a lot about why it's so hard to lose weight. And I don't want that to come off as demoralizing and meaning that it's impossible to ever do so, right? Certainly that is possible. And again, it's particularly outside of your set weight range. And so there are some things that we can do to facilitate healthy eating and weight, and I want to just talk a bit about a few of these here. I'm actually going to skip around in the order a little bit, and I would say that really one of the first most important things, right, is setting a reasonable goal. And so working within that set weight range, right? And so if you are outside of that, then setting a goal that will bring you back into that is a reasonable goal. But if you are already likely in your set weight range, setting a goal that's outside of that is not really a reasonable weight loss goal, and it's going to be demoralizing to try to achieve that. And so reframing your goals either to be less of a weight loss goal, so fewer pounds, or ideally reframing it as a behavioral or a fitness goal is going to be much more effective in terms of maintaining your motivation for that exercise. And of course, a balanced diet is really important as well. And so certainly people have success with some diets and some people don't. But overwhelmingly, the literature suggests that dieting long-term, it's ineffective because people aren't able to maintain those diets. It's restrictive. And so as we saw in this lecture and in the readings, that leads to people to crave those things more and makes it difficult to stick to those diets. And so ultimately people break them. And then what happens is, your body has been in starvation mode, right? It's using calories really effectively. And so you gain that weight back and often more pretty quickly. And so this is what they call yo-yo dieting, where you're on a diet and then you go off it and you gain the weight back and you lose it and you gain it back. But every time you do that, you're really, messing with that set weight range and confusing it, and that can lead people to continue to gain more weight long term as their body continues to think that it might starve at any time, and so it needs to continue to really burn calories effectively and hold on to as much weight as possible. And so this is one of the downsides of dieting, and particularly of restrictive diets. Right. Again, the word diet really just means what we eat, so technically we are all on a diet, but when we're using it, we usually mean you're restricting what you eat in some way, whether that's by number of calories or types of food. Okay. Another really key thing, right, especially again if you're outside of that set weight range, then pairing diet and exercise can be effective, right? So exercise alone may not be, particularly because it may stimulate your appetite, but pairing that with diet can help to change the caloric output and input and change that ratio more in favor of burning more calories than you're taking in. And so this can help. Again, it's not easy, and there are all kinds of biological processes that will undermine efforts, but it is possible and clearly has been done. I think really, again, motivation is always going to be key to any long-term change in behavior, which is really what it takes to lose weight. It takes a long-term change. You have to keep doing this, and you can't stop, right? You have to maintain that exercise routine. You have to maintain that balanced diet. And so really, for the exercise piece, finding something that you enjoy doing is really going to be important. And again, that may be easier said than done, but we often think of exercise, it has to be like running on a treadmill, and I can't think of anything much more aversive personally. Maybe you love that, which is awesome, but finding something that you do like, right? So many people find that they don't really like to exercise, but they love to dance, which is of course exercise, right? That's very cardiovascularly taxing. It uses your muscles, it tests your balance and flexibility. It's a great form of exercise. And so finding things that you do enjoy doing, playing tennis if that's enjoyable to you, right? There's things that you could do where you don't have to be focused the whole time on the fact that you're exercising and your body is hurting. And then it's easier to have that motivation to go out and do that thing and to maintain that over the long term. Social support is also really key, and I know that's a difficult thing now. We may not be able to have a workout buddy in the same way that we used to. I'm certainly missing that myself, having someone to, in person physically work out with. But there are still other ways that we can get social support to maintain our health behaviors, whether that be diet or exercise. Just to give a personal example, my friends from undergrad and I have been doing various plank challenges, and so every day my friend Rachel sends us what we're supposed to do, and it's not a huge workout, a routine or anything, but we do plank for some number of seconds. We're working our way up, and they become more complicated in terms of the type of plank that they are, right? And so it's a way that we can get some social support and around that, right? So I would not probably remember to do that every day, but because we're all messaging about it in our group messenger and we're talking about it and we're like, oh my gosh, that was so hard, a side plank is terrible, then that gives you that social support and can again maintain that motivation, which is really key. And this can also work around having a healthy diet, right? This is no coincidence that there's so many internet-based groups for sharing healthy recipes, for supporting one another in this, because people need that. It's really difficult to do these things alone, and so having social support is really key. Also, just working exercise into your lifestyle, right? I put this in quotes, but we often, again, think about exercise as just running on the treadmill, but it can also be things like biking to work or walking more often to get places. And so as you start to work those things into your routine, they may disappear into the background and you won't even realize as much that you're getting that exercise, right? And so this is something that I think is it's more of us do that in Toronto, right, as a city where people often walk to campus and things, but particularly now as we are mostly in our homes and not going anywhere, finding other ways to work exercise into our lifestyle, maybe taking a walk before we start work or after or on a lunch break, or one of my collaborators has been having walking meetings when she doesn't need to have a video chat but can have an audio chat with people. She does it on her iPhone and takes that out and does a walk and is trying to find ways to get up from the computer and work some exercise into her lifestyle. She wouldn't call it exercise. She would say she's not someone who exercises at all, but that is exercise, right? That's really important for health, and really taking a brisk walk is a really excellent thing that you can do for your health. It's also really important to just, again, to speak at the more societal level, right? We talked about individual things you can do, but as a public health approach, right, we really need to make it easier for people to work exercise and healthy eating into their lifestyle, and making it easier for people to bike and walk to work back when we all re-enter the workplace, right? So having safe bike lanes and walkable paths, having more parks and green space so people can get out and work out in an environment where they don't have to pay to go to a gym. Having outdoor workout spaces is something that I was already a huge advocate for, but makes even more sense now in this time of social distancing, right, where we can be outside together at a distance. And so having more exercise spaces outside is a really great way that we could make this easier for people to do. And then something else I'm also deeply interested in my own work that we apply in industry is bringing this more into workplaces, right? So most adults spend the majority of their waking hours at work, and so having workout facilities available on site at larger companies, or subsidizing people to join gyms or gain access to other spaces, and then also giving people time to prioritize that, right? So many workplaces give you those gym memberships, but then they keep you there all day and late into the evening, and so when are you supposed to do that anyway? And so creating workplace approved and sponsored times to actually go do those things so that people can take advantage of these kind of perks. So this is really important as well. So that's it for this lecture, and I apologize for all of the background noise, but I don't think it was going to get any quieter for any time soon, and I'm really sorry about that, but I appreciate you all bearing with me, and thanks so much, and I will see you for the next lecture.